Greetings viewers, Eric the Car Guy. Thank you so much for watching my video. Today's episode of the Fairmont project is a little bit different. Up to this point I've been doing videos about rebuilding the rear end, installing the engine, transmissions, all this other kind of stuff, but we're into the part of the build now that Steve Darnell calls the last 10% or the last 20%. If you don't know who Steve Darnell is, I'll link it down in the description. He's a custom car builder from out in Las Vegas, owns a shop called Welder Up, had a TV show called Vegas Rat Rods for a while. Anyway, he's built a few custom cars. And he always says that the last 10% is the most difficult part. Well, it's also difficult for me to present to you in the traditional way that I've done, like I said, engine or transmission or videos of that type. So I'm just gonna call these final assembly videos. And in this installment, I'm gonna be installing the water pump, also fitting the alternator, as well as trying to fit the AC compressor and also some stuff with the heater hoses and trying to get those things worked out. So it's me working through problems. I can't really put a direct label on what happens inside the video other than this is this episode. So I hope you enjoy it. I'll catch up with you at the end and well, I'll see you then. Here's the video. Now it's time to put that there carburetor on. A viewer sent me a couple of these. These are diaphragms out of brake setups on large diesel trucks. And I'm gonna use it to put my fasteners in because it won't damage the finish. And it looks like it'll keep them in there nice. So I'll get this plate off. And I'm thinking I'm gonna finish up plumbing the cold side of the turbo just to make sure that I have all the parts that I need. Seems like a good starting point. Oh, that's so disappointing. That means I have to get a new gasket. Crud. All right, I just made a note that I need a new carburetor gasket, but that's not gonna stop us from continuing with the fitting process. I don't even have to bolt that down. Like I said, I'm just fitting things in here. Gosh, that looks pretty. Is it wrong that I'm slightly aroused right now? This is a set of O-rings that came with my carburetor hat to see if they fit my carburetor. Yep. It does fit. I just gotta fiddle with it. Make sure that it stays there. So they do fit, but they are not without their own set of challenges. This very important piece here, I wanna try to make sure I get it at a good angle. Yeah, it looks like I gotta be slightly off because of the bowl vents. So they gotta be like that, or like that. That ain't gonna fly. So like that is gonna be about as straight on as I can get. But it does look like I'm gonna need a different piece of tubing to get to this. And hood clearance. I'm gonna have to trim that down because that hood's gonna set right on top of that. In fact, I may use a different type of nut altogether. But looking at that, I think my hood's gonna come right about here. I need to make that consideration. This is why we fit things. This kit is set up for fuel injection. And with fuel injection on these Fords, the intake manifold comes up and terminates right about here, and this would plug right into it and we'd be done. Since we're running this blow-through carburetor, it's a little bit different. And looking at this, I'm thinking what I do, two things. I'm gonna take this tube here and cut it right at this bend. Just cut this whole end off. That way I've got sort of a straight shot, so I don't have to have this angle here. That'll create turbulence also going through here. The straighter I am going into the top of the carburetor, the better. So I'm thinking I will cut it here, but I'm also thinking I'm going to come in above where the tube passes through the body here, and I'm gonna enlarge this just about to the top there. And that will allow me to bring this pipe up, which in turn will take care of my bend down below, and also help this get up away from the exhaust a little bit more. And that way it won't be picking up more heat before it goes into the engine. But here's another challenge. Now this fits onto here just fine. And this is like, what, a 2.5, I'll have to measure it. But it does not go onto here. Here is a larger size. So I need to find a piece of tubing that is whatever this size is here and whatever this size is here and the length in between the two, or some solution therein. But this is why we fit things. I think what I might start by doing though is taking this tube out and cutting this larger so that I can see what that fitment is like. And no, I'm not wearing my safety glasses right now. I'm just measuring stuff. I'm not cutting anything yet. Relax. I'm going to measure the size of this, the size of this, and then the length from here to here. 3.5 inches it looks like. And this is probably 3 inch, I'm guessing. Yeah, that's about 3 inch. So I need to go up 1/2 inch in size from one side to the other. And lastly, if I go from here to here, I would say 12.5 inches, maybe 13, just to be on the safe side. Ready to do some real work? Next phase, I'm going to remove the water pump and replace it with the other water pump. This is different direction water pump they used for the dyno. I have the correct one over here that I'm going to replace it with. Let's just do that. Hopefully that'll come off. Hopefully. I'm also hoping that there's a thermostat down in there. I don't know if they would have not run one. You know what, when I get that water pump off, it's probably not a bad idea to check to see if there is a thermostat in there, because if there isn't, obviously I need to put one in. Let's see if that's all of them. Nope. I don't see any more fasteners. Oh, there it is. It's hiding right there. Now it's practically falling off. Oh, that gasket looks fine. I'm gonna reuse it. I don't see a thermostat. No thermostat. Darn glad I checked it, because now I know I need it. And that's the old intake manifold, so I'm not surprised there's a little crust in there. I've ordered a thermostat. It's gonna be a minute before it gets here. So I figure we'll see if I can get this heater hose plumbed up. Now that I've removed the plug, I'm going to install the, well, for lack of a better word, nipple that is for one of the heater hoses. I haven't really sorted out my HVAC yet, so I'm not ready to route those, but we can create their connections because we will need that. This is just a little bit of Honda bond. I know, right? Honda stuff on a Ford. It'll work. And it'll have plenty of time to cure before this fires up or even has coolant in it. And that's what you want with RTV. You want healthy amount of curing time. And I think we'll have sufficient curing time here. Just opened the box with all the AC compressor stuff, the AC system, I should say. And I'm trying to figure out where everything's gonna live. I think it's gonna live there. Now, I've had to move my solenoid from over here because of the turbo stuff getting in the way. So I'm gonna relocate this guy back over here. I thought one of the first things I'd do is I'd remove the positive battery cable, since I've got a new one of those in the trunk. So I'm kind of bouncing all over the place, and I thought I warned you at the end of this video that it might be that way. So sorry if I'm jumping around a bit, but now I have to go find another wrench. You know, this design was always kind of cool. This is the solenoid for the starter. And I say it's cool because a lot of times when starters go bad, it's really just the solenoid. And they set it up to not be a part of that anyway. So therefore, you don't have to take the starter out in order to fix a starter. As I said, that's where that stuff used to live. This is the cable that goes down to the starter. And I'm just going to take this nut and thread it on here loosely, because that will go to the alternator. So I'm thinking I would like this to live in this area. When I say in this area, okay, the hood's going to be closed. I don't want it close to anything metal because this is the positive battery cable. So if it's too close to this strut tower. Anything that gets dropped down in there could cause it to short out. I kind of like it up here because it's sort of away from things. This is my adjustable proportioning valve. I like where that is. This is just a see where this fits exercise, and then leaves me room for this piece here, but also leaves me room to access it, because I do want to be able to access it if I ever do need to service it. Or if I needed to jump it, I would connect a positive cable here and a negative cable to the engine block if I were going to jump it in that crude fashion. Yeah, I think the solenoid is going to be happy living there. And I think that provides enough cable for it to reach the starter down below. If not, I'll have to get a longer one. You noticing a theme here? You might have to get more stuff. A lot. I've angled it a little bit. I put it where I believe I want it. So now I'm going to mark it. And that'll be where I drill my holes. And we'll just get that mounted. It needed to be done anyway. I'll poke some holes. I hope I don't regret moving this here, because with the hood on, access is going to be a little bit different. In fact, this thing is probably going to be about like that. So it'll be a little tougher to get in here. Just going to lift it up and quickly check where this cable goes, see if it'll still accommodate the starter. That's about perfect. So I'll be able to come right down like this. I'm still going to tie it up out of the way, but I honestly like having the cable back here better because it's behind the heat shield. Well, you know, I might have to trim some of the ends off of this to get this to come in like I want. It'd be great if it came in like that. That corner's a little big, so maybe what I need to do is shave that down somewhat. However, once that's done, I like the fact that that ground is right there on that starter. I like that a lot, but I will have to round that down a bit to get it to fit better. That will work just fine. "180-degree thermostat. Have to get the Honda bond back out because these bolts go into a water passage. Just a little bit of sealer. Oh, I like the way those threads felt. Like so many threads on this car. Ugh. I need to take this plug out and add the other heater hose nipple. Kind of doesn't look like all these fasteners are going to transfer over. This one and this one in particular. Ooh, sorry about that. Here's another thing, it's just, this is all different. Well, I wanted to make sure my Mishimoto was pointing in the right direction so that I could read it, but this end's bigger than this end, so I kind of got no choice. Oh well. I believe I have all the fasteners. If you come over to this side, all squared away as far as where they go. These just go into the top of the timing cover. They're kind of blind. This one was tricky. I didn't have one that was quite the right size, so I had to use the old yucky bolt. Oh well, as long as it fastens right. And the rest of these, well, they're the rest of these. Many of these fasteners are going into coolant passages. Well, a couple of them are going into coolant passages. Because of that, I'm going to wait and find out if they're the correct length first before I start running them down. There are two fasteners that the old water pump had that this one does not. And they go on either side of this timing cover, and I'm a little, well, I hope I don't need to be concerned. It's not going to go on there by itself, right? These top three I can run in, won't require any sealant. They're just going into the timing cover. It's these others that I want to make sure that I have, like this one here. I don't have enough length on that one. And this one here looks just long enough. Same dilemma over on this side. I've got one that's too short and one that fits in there okay. So I need a longer one here and a longer one here. Yay! Now everybody's got somewhere to go. So these on the ends get sealant, these on top, doesn't matter, these three here. And hopefully that's sufficient, because I don't see any more fasteners. The heads on these are slightly different. I think they're all the same size though. As long as they're the same size, I don't care if they're 12 point or 6. You can take them all off with 12. Keep forgetting there's no radiator here. Makes this super easy. These bolts are way longer than they need to be. These are the bolts that were on there originally. These may be yet more fasteners I run to the hardware store and replace. I suppose it just depends on how far down they go down and if they're going to interfere with anything once they've bottomed out. Seems to be okay. My new 130 amp alternator was able to dig up the alternator relocation bracketing required that came with the turbo kit. Very thankful for that. I'm not going to assemble it, but I can mount this guy to the engine. So this way when I turn this center portion, it will change the effective length of this thing. So when I turn this part, both of these will go out. So one is left-handed and one is not, is what I'm trying to say. I don't think we need all these sleeves. I think they're based on application. Step one for me, I had this problem with this fastener and any other ones I've tried. So I'm going to need to make that hole bigger, no matter what, because it doesn't quite work. That'll be job one. Now I'm drilling into aluminum. Some people might be saying, don't get that metal in the alternator. Aluminum is non-ferrous. Don't sweat it. Eric, I can't believe you took a drill to a brand new alternator. Yes, I did. Right in front of you. There was nothing you could do about it. Nothing. Just want to try and get a feel from where this will live. There it's hitting the heater hose. That's no bueno. Yeah, even if I do get this mounted in this location, which honestly is right in line, and it has to go here because that cylinder head fits farther back. I did get a larger alternator because I wanted to make sure that I had plenty of amps. Like I can take this off for now, but I still have to have some sort of heater hose going up into here, and I may have to get those metal brackets because they may come down underneath this to give me the access I need. Let's start taking stuff off to find out what it's going to take. So this gives me that much adjustment. Really? I so don't like that adjustment. And I think I'm also going to take this oil feed line for the turbo and get it well away from all this. We'll move that right now. That honestly doesn't feel bad. Certainly feels more out of the way. I can get a little more adjustment if I move this clamp. Yep. Well, I'll do this. Yeah. That is a bit more reasonable. This is why we're test fitting. That feels like a beginning. Let's see if we can figure out the brackets. You got a clue? Because I don't. I may have to consult the instructions. That seems like a plausible location to me, though. Seriously, your bolts won't even go through your own bracket? Really? I'm guessing that's that. I just had to find a set of fasteners for up here because what they gave me was this, which is supposed to screw in here, but it does not. And that is because I have changed the alternator. If I was using the older alternator, I'd probably be okay, but I've got about that much. So I've got to make it so that whatever belt that I use goes on super tight, but I need to find some through bolt and nut to fasten this up here. Found me a bolt and a nut, and it will work really well, except for it just won't fit. So I'm going to clearance it. Clearance it. This is hardened steel. I'm not going to clearance it. I'm going to find a different size bolt. I found a bolt that'll work. I found a nut that'll work. It's a little long. I threw that on the ground on purpose. I could shorten it up at some point. I'm going to be fine with it for now. The idea is to get everything fitted, and eventually I'll have to deal with it. What I'm really concerned about is what I'm going to do about this heater hose. That concerns me. I have this silicone hose which has this nice tight 90-degree bend coming off of here. And I have a thought that if I'm able to somehow fish this in there and it works, it might come up behind the alternator and solve that problem, at least temporarily. I'm gonna have to find another piece of tube to go into here to connect to the rest of the system. But at least what this will allow me to do is it will allow me to continue to fit things without having to worry about this part. Maybe that's not the end. Strangely, that works. Just going to trim a little bit off the end. Cameraman Brian's suggestion. He didn't like it touching the bottom of the alternator. This is the main power feed that comes off the alternator. It goes into this giant main fuse. I've routed it underneath the cold side of the turbo to go to the back of the alternator, and I believe I can just mount my main fuse right there. And then I need to come back to the solenoid over here, which I have tons of extra wire, but I can just cut it, shorten it, and make it attach right there. But that'll be a nice little run for that guy. And now the AC compressor. This is the outlet here on the back. This actually is a multi-ribbed pulley here that's meant to accommodate a couple of different belt sizes. So it's like that on purpose. But if I'm not mistaken, this will live up in here just like this. So now I gotta figure the brackets out, especially since we just used up what may be one of the brackets for the alternator. I'm gonna try and build this thing backwards. In other words, mount the brackets to the compressor and then figure out where they are supposed to land on the vehicle. This is actually supposed to take the place of an R12 system on an older Mustang. And since I've had no system on this at all, other than the old one, which doesn't even apply to this, just want to try and see if I can figure out where stuff might go. That feels like progress, because I think what this utilizes is the stock brackets, so I may need to yet find stock brackets for this engine. And the instructions for this, well, they suck. But I'm glad they have these crude drawings just so that I know what faces what. Maybe. This needs a bracket somewhere for this to work. I don't know where, but there's an original equipment bracket that goes in here that's going to make this happen. Yeah, that ain't going in there. We need more stuff to fit this. I really have to agree with Steve that the last 10 to 20% is difficult and slow going. But we'll work through it, and I think the best way to approach this type of video is with these episodes. So if you have better suggestions, things like that, please leave that down in the comments. Know that these things are fluid and that plans change, and I have changed my plans on a lot of things with this build along the way, and we're still working through it. I'm trying to make the most complete documentation of a build of this type on YouTube. That's basically what I'm doing with the Fairmont, and I hope you enjoy watching as much as I enjoy making these videos. I'll put links in the description to tools, videos, additional information, so please check there if you have questions concerning this video. If If you have automotive questions, I'd ask you head over to EricTheCarGuy.com. I'll link that in the description. Google+, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram for me socially. Be safe, have fun, stay dirty. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.